This message reached you right on time. Not a second too early, not a second too late. Because that's how divine alignment works. You didn't just stumble upon these words. Your spirit was guided here. And that's not a coincidence, chosen one. That's confirmation. You've felt it, haven't you? The restlessness, the sense that something deeper is calling you. The urge to pull away from the noise and lean into something real. That's not random. That's your awakening. And now, you're not just watching some content. You're stepping into a moment designed specifically for your elevation. This space right here is for the ones who feel different, for the ones who've outgrown the surface and are ready to move in power, purpose, and pure alignment. You are not crazy. You are not lost. You are rising. So take a deep breath, ground yourself, and prepare to receive what your soul has been waiting for. This isn't just inspiration, it's ignition. Every word is a key. Every sentence is a signal. And if your spirit is tingling right now, that's how you know. You are the shift. You are the light. You are the chosen. Let's unlock the truth that's been waiting for you. Let's rise together. You notice the dissonance creeping in, not from the world changing, but because something inside you no longer syncs with the rhythm around you. Places feel drained, conversations echo hollow, and familiar faces seem to speak a language you no longer understand. It's not that the world has turned against you, it's that your spirit has shifted to a quieter, deeper current. You still move through the motions, but they don't stir your core like they once did. In rooms full of laughter, you find yourself watching from behind an invisible glass, present yet untouched. Make your impact eternal. Join now and be a light in someone's darkness. What's moving you is subtle, yet undeniable. A current beyond logic, tugging at your core like gravity from an unseen moon. The ache isn't sadness, it's a yearning for something truer, something untouched by noise and illusion. This quiet evolution doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It begins softly, an intuitive knowing, a heightened awareness, a sense that surface living no longer satisfies. You begin seeking not answers, but truths, not noise, but resonance. This internal realignment creates distance from the familiar. Your instincts sharpen. You catch insincerity, not by what is said, but by what is felt. You're no longer tuned to the static of survival, but to the melody of meaning. The atmosphere you once breathed now feels heavy. Where once you chased approval, now you crave alignment. It's not about detachment for its own sake. It's about protecting the fragile bloom of new vision. If your heart overflows with divine love, now is the moment to let it shine. Click the super thank you button on YouTube and give $50 or more to help carry God's light to others. Your gift will bless not only your life, but countless others. You are part of His sacred plan. Your kindness may be the answer to someone's prayer. Share your blessings and honor His kingdom. May His grace guide you always. Suddenly, what once felt like connection begins to feel like compromise. You revisit old routines only to feel misplaced, like wearing a jacket that doesn't fit anymore. Events drain you. Social rituals feel scripted. You scroll and feel the disconnection deepen, not from others, but from the illusion you once believed. It hurts to realize you've outgrown what once gave you joy, but it's also proof that you're moving towards something real. You're not in decline, you're in redesign. This isn't a downfall, it's a deepening. You're shedding versions of yourself that cannot travel where you're headed. Quiet replaces noise. Space replaces pressure. What feels like solitude is actually sanctuary. This isn't punishment, it's preparation. You're not being abandoned. you're being refined. Sometimes elevation demands evacuation from distractions, from performance, from the imitation of purpose. So yes, faces will fade, dreams will shift, the mirror will reflect someone unfamiliar. But this erosion is holy. You're not being lost, you're being redefined. What seems like separation is initiation. Your role was never to blend in. It was always to break open. You were built for more than agreement. You were built for awakening. And while the path may seem narrow and the silence overwhelming, every step is carving the way toward the version of you that was always waiting to emerge. The sensation creeps in like a glitch in the background. Nothing feels on schedule anymore. Moments blur together, and entire stretches of time evaporate without warning. What once felt like structure now resembles fog. 1 minute you're starting something, the next you're wondering how the entire day disappeared. At times, images come to mind that don't belong to memory, and recent events slip through your grasp as if they never really settled. Sleep no longer feels like rest. It feels like a passage into something more vivid than reality itself. This isn't disorientation. It's detachment from the old framework. A deeper consciousness is peeling you away from the clock-bound mindset. No longer confined to predictable sequences, your awareness begins to move in patterns that can't be charted. Time becomes less like a ruler and more like a tide, something you drift through instead of measure. Everything once tethered to exact minutes begins to respond to something much less mechanical and far more intuitive. That's why it all seems so surreal. The world teaches deadlines and rigid plans, but in this expanded awareness, those lines dissolve. You're learning to inhabit moments not in a row, but in resonance. You're not watching the seconds pass. You're learning to listen to timing the way one hears a note in music, rather than counting the beats. That sudden wave of familiarity in a place you've never been isn't confusion. It's your inner compass syncing with truth outside of time. What appears to be memory loss is sometimes a realignment. What looks like delay is a deliberate pause for deeper unfolding. Time is no longer a cage, it's a canvas. Each repetition of the past, or glimpse of the not yet, is a signal that nothing is ever truly separate in this higher rhythm. Events are stitched together, not by chronology, but by significance. The path becomes less about pushing forward and more about sensing the right moment to step. No longer driven by the race to arrive, you begin to understand that everything aligned with your path already exists. You're not making it happen. You're arriving where it's always been. That's why the rush of the world feels alien now. You're moving according to something less frantic, more sacred. What looks like stillness is actually calibration. Appointments unfold when meaning meets readiness. Absence becomes sacred. Pauses become potent. Even the moments that felt like waiting were never wasted. They were incubations of timing perfected. When the shift lands, it won't unfold like a build-up. It will erupt like a turning page. One breath, and everything will realign. So don't force the pace. Don't panic when the rhythm changes. You're not malfunctioning. You're syncing with something timeless. While others follow numbered paths, you're tracing constellations only your soul can see. Let the ticking continue around you. You're not behind. You're aligned with something eternal, beyond structure, beyond rush, and entirely on course. There comes a point when the glitter begins to dull, not because the world has changed, but because what once dazzled no longer reaches you. The thrill of shallow conversations, the race to be seen, the obsession with performing an identity. They've all begun to feel like clutter in your chest. You go through familiar motions, but there's no ignition behind the smile. The energy once poured into appearances now feels misplaced, like pouring water into a cracked vessel. A quiet shift takes root. Not all at once, but steadily. It's not disinterest, it's refinement. What's falling away isn't joy, but distortion. The need to participate in performances for applause fades, not out of arrogance, but because your spirit has tuned itself to a deeper resonance. The external no longer governs your worth. You no longer orbit around impressions. You move by internal direction. What once held importance now feels like echoes from a distant chapter. You've glimpsed a reality that isn't sculpted by approval or masked by noise. And once that truth breaks the surface, the old games lose their color. The insatiable need for recognition begins to dissolve because your identity no longer feeds on external measures. It's not about removing yourself, it's about returning to yourself. The world around may call it withdrawal, but it's a homecoming. The loud becomes tiring, and the empty becomes obvious. Your silence grows heavier with meaning. Your solitude becomes a sanctuary, not a sentence. No longer entangled in the dance of distraction, you begin to sense a clarity forming, a knowing that what pulls you away from your center is no longer worth your presence. If your heart overflows with divine love, now is the moment to let it shine. Click the Super Thank You button on YouTube and give $50 or more to help carry God's light to others. Your gift will bless not only your life, but countless others. You are part of His sacred plan. Your kindness may be the answer to someone's prayer. Share your blessings and honor His kingdom. May His grace guide you always. The detachment is a clearing, not a sign of coldness, but of consecration. The unraveling of former desires isn't a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. What's being peeled away are habits, personas, and connections that only survived when you weren't listening to your truth. This is not exile. This is emergence. And emergence requires the falling away of all that doesn't reflect the light you've rediscovered. There may be loss, yes, but it's the kind that makes space, not emptiness. People may grow distant, not out of malice, but because the rhythm you now walk to no longer matches theirs. The bonds once held by mutual pretending loosen when one of you begins to live honestly. And in that space, what remains is real. This path is not about rebellion. It is about return. Shedding what distracted you from your inner compass. Releasing the false urgency to be everything to everyone. You no longer need to prove, decorate, or entertain. You're here to witness something vast rise within, and to let that truth shape your steps. When the noise fades and the room empties, do not mistake it for loss. It is alignment. What is leaving could never carry you where you're meant to go, and what remains will echo with purpose. Every unraveling reveals more of the essence that was always underneath. This is not the end of connection. It's the rebirth of it. One rooted in honesty, in purpose, and in the unwavering quiet of the soul, finally speaking without interruption. A subtle realignment is no longer just a matter of thought. It's pressing against the very walls of your physical being. The shifts that began in the unseen are now leaving fingerprints on the tangible. Fatigue arrives even after rest. There are pulses of sensation that defy logic, tightness, waves of heaviness, unpredictable sparks of vitality that vanish as quickly as they came. Crowded places unsettle. Familiar environments feel strangely dense. The body is no longer a passive observer. It has joined the transformation. Make your impact eternal. Join now and be a light in someone's darkness. This isn't decay, it's decoding, not a malfunction, but a recalibration. As the deeper self sheds outdated patterns, the body must reshape itself to hold a new frequency. The old circuits can't carry this current. Systems you once ignored now speak loudly. Muscles store memories. Bones hum with stories. Every cell is listening, adjusting, shifting towards something more aligned with who you're becoming. And in this rewiring, sensitivity becomes a signal. The foods that once grounded now weigh you down. Sounds you tolerated now grate. Discomfort doesn't mean something is wrong. It means you're no longer numb. You're not reacting more. You're perceiving more. The skin, the nerves, the breath, each one becoming fluent in the language of resonance. The body is evolving from vessel to instrument. The cravings change. The rituals change. Movement becomes intentional. Rest becomes sacred. Hydration isn't habit, it's communication. You're not chasing a perfect routine. You're learning to respond to the tempo of inner truth. No longer driven by guilt or performance, the body now demands care from a place of reverence. This path is quiet and at times isolating. There are no clear labels for what you feel, but you're not alone in this. Others walking the same path are sensing similar ripples. The material world is beginning to bow to the spirit's expansion, and the physical self is learning how to follow. These changes are not punishment, they are preparation. The form that once braced itself to survive is now being asked to soften, to trust, to become the framework for something eternal. The noise of exhaustion, the need for stillness, the pull toward calm. It's not laziness, it's alignment. What looks like a slowdown is a sacred recalibration of the whole self. Every signal in your body is part of the unfolding. The tension is a teacher. The tiredness is a guide. Healing begins not from outside in, but from soul to cell. What once served as armor is being stripped away, not to leave you exposed, but to reveal your truest expression. Allow the rhythm to change. Allow the silence within to lead. This isn't about returning to a version of wellness sold by the world. It's about creating space for the presence of something higher to fully inhabit you. Strength is no longer found in endurance, but in harmony. You are not simply awakening. You are being reformed into wholeness, one heartbeat at a time. It begins without warning, like a sudden shift in the wind within your own awareness. An idea lands fully formed, an image appears behind closed eyes, or a knowing settles into your chest with no explanation. One moment you're caught in the ordinary, and the next you're flooded with clarity about a decision, a person, or a future event that hasn't unfolded yet. These flashes don't come from memory or logic. They strike with a kind of quiet authority that can't be denied. This isn't fantasy, it's reception. Something far beyond intellect is reaching into your consciousness. You're not unraveling, you're being awakened. Linear thought no longer explains your experiences because you're now aligned with a dimension where understanding doesn't trickle. It arrives in waves. You're not figuring things out, you're being given access. These bursts of perception aren't random. They're infusions of higher insight, encoded guidance making contact through sensation and symbols. As your inner world attunes to a more refined signal, these transmissions become more vivid. A glance, a sound, a sudden dream. They're no longer just fragments. They are conversations without words, instructions without manuals. You're learning to interpret the intangible. There's a pull toward action that may not be logical, yet it feels precise. Whether you feel prompted to withdraw, to reach out, to pivot in a new direction, it's not guesswork, It's resonance. This internal certainty may be invisible to others, but it's unmistakable to you. And that's the challenge, to move forward even when external validation is absent. Because this guidance wasn't meant for consensus, it was meant for your calling. Old frameworks emphasized proof. Now you're navigating by alignment. And what once took years of trial and error now arrives in a moment of silent certainty. Not because you've skipped the lesson, but because you've expanded into a new way of receiving it. You've become fluent in the language of intuition. These internal downloads carry weight. They're not passing thoughts to be ignored. They are blueprints, recalibrations, sacred coordinates tailored to your journey. Let them unfold. Write them. Reflect on them. Let them lead, even when the road is unmarked. The world around you may not understand the path you're taking, but clarity was never meant to come from outside. This is more than insight. It's strategy from realms beyond form. The more you trust that quiet stream, the stronger it flows. And what began as subtle nudges will swell into undeniable guidance. This is how your path is lit, not by the approval of others, but by the illumination within. What you're receiving is not just meant to awaken you, it's meant to shape what comes next. Let it. There comes a moment in deep transformation when the atmosphere between you and others begins to shift. Bonds that once felt firm begin to loosen, and familiar connections suddenly feel foreign. The exchanges grow shallow, the understanding fades, and where ease once lived, now stands silence or misunderstanding. Some connections vanish without a word. Others resist your evolution with unease, criticism, or confusion. It can feel abrupt, but it's not chaos, it's alignment. This unraveling is not a collapse, it's a cleansing. What is stepping away is not being pushed, it's being released. When inner landscapes change, the outer echoes follow. Those who no longer align with your energy are not being punished, they're being rerouted. Not every relationship is built to grow with you, and not all can accompany you into unfamiliar skies. If your heart overflows with divine love, now is the moment to let it shine. Click the super thank you button on YouTube and give $50 or more to help carry God's light to others. Your gift will bless not only your life, but countless others. You are part of His sacred plan. Your kindness may be the answer to someone's prayer. Share your blessings and honor His kingdom. May His grace guide you always. Some departures sting, especially when they come from those who once held space for your former self. But this path calls for resonance, not repetition. Clinging to bonds out of habit or history won't anchor you. It will only weigh you down. When elevation begins, the attachments that can't breathe at your new altitude start to fall away. What's leaving is creating space, and that space matters. It makes room for honest mirrors, those who see your growth and meet it with clarity, not resistance. You'll no longer have to shrink or contort to be accepted. The new connections won't demand explanations. They'll arrive already understanding, because they're tuned to the same signal. This period might feel isolating, but it's sacred. Every soul travels at its own rhythm. Some are meant to walk beside you for a while, others only briefly. The key is to know when the chapter has closed and not fight the quiet. Trying to preserve what no longer flows drains your energy and dims your clarity. Release doesn't always mean rejection. It often means refinement. Grief might surface, and that's okay. Missing what was doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. It means you loved deeply. But growth honors both the love and the leaving. You're not abandoning anyone. You're answering a deeper call. And that call is summoning you toward people who match your new frequency, not your old familiarity. Letting go is an act of love, not just for them, but for yourself. It's choosing alignment over obligation. It's trusting that the soul connections meant to walk with you now will appear not through effort, but through resonance. This shift isn't about having fewer people. It's about holding deeper presence. As the familiar fades, do not doubt the process. Walk with an open spirit and a steady heart. Those who truly belong to your becoming will meet you there, not out of convenience, but out of divine design. Let every goodbye carve space for what's real to take root. You're not walking away from connection. You're stepping into truth. Everything feels like it's unraveling, like the center you once clung to has gone quiet, and you're floating in a space between what was and what hasn't yet become. The ache of solitude deepens, the noise of the world fades, and even your own reflection feels unfamiliar. It can seem like your foundation is cracking, like the pieces of your life no longer fit together. But this isn't collapse, it's the clearing. The storm isn't here to destroy you, it's here to deliver you. The structures built from old narratives are dissolving. What you're feeling isn't a failure to function. It's the system within you shifting. All the inner chaos, the mental noise, the emotional overwhelm, they're not signs of weakness. They're signals that you've stepped beyond the limits of the former self. You're moving through a passage only your soul can recognize, and though it feels disorienting now, it is the gateway to your evolution. You're being asked to let go, not just of habits or roles, but of the smaller version of yourself you've outgrown. The discomfort is sacred. The sensitivity, the heightened awareness, the intensified emotion, it's not punishment, it's preparation. You're learning to see without distortion, to hear without noise, to feel with clarity. And though it feels like you're coming undone, what's really happening is emergence. This growth does not announce itself gently. It shakes loose the illusions. It removes what you clung to for safety. It asks for your surrender, not your strategy. And in the letting go, something more honest is born. This pain is not the end. It is the pressure before the threshold. Your instincts are sharpening. Your perception is widening. And your resilience is being carved from raw experience. Transformation always travels with tension. It stirs grief. It ignites fear. But under the surface of all that noise, something extraordinary is taking shape. You are no longer walking the same timeline. You are rising into a new frequency of being. It's not a destination. It's a return to your truest form. Every thought that falls apart is making space for deeper wisdom. Every tear carries away what no longer belongs. The doubts will whisper, the fear will linger. But your presence, the awareness that refuses to quit, is proof of the strength already alive in you. No one else has to understand. Not everyone will walk with you through this. The ones who are aligned will appear in their time. What matters now is that you keep moving through the fog, because beyond it is clarity, and it's yours. This isn't the end of who you are. It's the beginning of who you were always meant to be. Your reality is shifting because your essence is expanding. And in this expansion, miracles are being born, not from force, but from faith. Every step you take in truth reshapes the path ahead. You are not unraveling. You are being refined. You are not fading. You are activating. Let the past peel away. Let the discomfort teach. Let the silence speak. You are walking into a new dimension, not one far away, but one that begins with every decision to honor what feels real. Trust the rhythm of your becoming. The momentum is already carrying you where words cannot. You are the breakthrough. Let it unfold.